What would you do if you came home and something was already inside? Keep watching, and by the end, tell me, would you have stayed or run? Welcome to Vault 330. Living alone means becoming intimately familiar with every sound, every creak, every subtle change in your environment. You settle into routines, patterns that make your space feel secure, predictable. The click of the door when you lock it, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft rustle of your own sheets as you settle in for the night. These are the small comforts of solitude, the signatures of your own presence. But sometimes, something shifts, a detail so minor, yet so out of place, that it sends a ripple through your sense of safety. That night you returned home as usual. The hallway lights flickered on as you passed. The key turned easily in the lock. Everything seemed normal, but as you walked into your bedroom, you noticed it. The closet door, standing slightly ajar. You always keep it closed. It's a habit, almost a superstition. Something about the sight of it open unsettles you. So, you closed it, firmly, almost absently, and told yourself not to linger on it. Maybe you'd left it open in the morning, in a rush. Still, as you made your way through the rest of your apartment, something felt off. You checked the windows, the bathroom, the front door. Everything was locked, exactly as you'd left it. Later, as the city quieted down and the night pressed in, you tried to let the unease fade. You read for a while, scrolled through your phone, trying to drown out the nagging sense that something wasn't right. Then, from the bedroom, a soft, unmistakable click echoed through the silence. If you saw a foot behind your closet door, would you open it or run? You told yourself not to panic. You'd closed it. You were sure. Heart pounding, you crept toward the door, and then you saw it. Just behind the hanging coats, the edge of a foot, pale and motionless. A surge of adrenaline sent you flying backward. You slammed the door shut, bolted down the hallway, out the front door, and into the safety of the night. The air outside was cold, sharp, a jarring contrast to the warmth you'd just left behind. You called the police, your voice trembling. They arrived quickly, moving methodically through your apartment, searching every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. They found nothing. No sign of an intruder. Every window still locked, every door still secure. The closet was empty, the coats undisturbed. The officers tried to reassure you, their faces calm, professional. Maybe it was a trick of the light, a shadow playing tricks on your eyes. Maybe stress, fatigue. But you knew, deep down, that what you'd seen had been real. Before leaving, one officer decided to check the attic crawl space, a cramped, dusty void you'd barely thought about since moving in. He climbed up, his flashlight beam sweeping through the darkness. At first, nothing. Then, a pause. He called you over, his face unreadable. Inside, on the rough wooden boards, lay a half-eaten sandwich, fresh, the bread still soft, a bite missing. Whoever had been there hadn't been gone long. A chill ran through you, colder than the night air. The idea that someone had been hiding, watching, waiting, was almost too much to comprehend. The spaces you thought were yours alone suddenly felt unfamiliar, invaded. Every shadow seemed to conceal a secret, every sound a warning. In the days that followed, you changed the locks. You checked every nook, every dark corner, every forgotten crawl space. But even as you tried to reclaim your home, the feeling lingered. A sense that, for a moment, you had not been alone. That sometimes the simplest things, a door left open, a half-eaten sandwich, can unravel the fabric of your safety, revealing the unsettling truth that you are never as alone as you think. When you agree to house sit for a relative, you expect a few quiet days, maybe some time alone to read or relax. That's what I thought, anyway. When my aunt handed me her keys and told me to make myself at home, her house was old, creaked with every step, and seemed to settle into itself with the sighs and groans of its wooden bones. But I told myself that's just how old houses are. I wasn't afraid. The first night, after unpacking my bag and settling on the couch with a book, something odd happened. Around midnight, I noticed a strip of yellowish light under the bathroom door at the end of the hallway. I was sure I'd turned all the lights off. Maybe I'd forgotten, or maybe the bulb was faulty. I got up, flicked the switch off, and went back to my book, thinking nothing more of it. The second night, it happened again. I was brushing my teeth, getting ready for bed, when the bathroom light snapped on behind me. The switch clicked audibly. I spun around, toothbrush in hand, but there was no one there. The window was shut, the air still. I stood there, heart thumping, trying to convince myself it was just a wiring problem. Houses this old are full of quirks. Told myself to ignore it, to stop letting my imagination run wild. But on the third night, the house felt different. The shadows seemed deeper. Every tick of the clock sounded louder. I stayed up late, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself. Then, just past midnight, I heard the click of the bathroom light coming on again. This time, I decided to catch it in the act. Whatever it was. I crept down the hallway, the floorboards moaning quietly under my feet. The bathroom door was closed. I reached for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked from the inside. My aunt's bathroom didn't even have a keyhole on the outside, just an old-fashioned latch. I knocked, softly at first, then harder. No answer. My heart pounded in my chest, a cold sweat prickling at the back of my neck. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing but silence. No movement, no breathing. I called out, "Hello? Is someone in there?" Still nothing. The silence felt heavy, oppressive, as if the house itself was holding its breath. What would you do if a locked door opened by itself? Determined, I fetched a hairpin from my bag and jimmied the latch open. The door swung inward with a reluctant groan. The bathroom was empty. No one hiding behind the shower curtain, no footprints on the tile, but the mirror above the sink was clouded with fresh condensation, thick, swirling fog, as if someone had just stepped out of a hot shower. And then I saw it, written across the mist, in shaky, dripping letters. "Don't look at me." My stomach dropped. I stared at the message, unable to move. Every instinct screaming for me to run. The words seemed to pulse on the glass, each letter trembling in the shifting fog. I wiped the mirror with my sleeve. The message vanished, but the dread remained. I searched the house from top to bottom, turning on every light, checking every window and door. Everything was locked tight. No signs of forced entry. Nothing out of place except for that message lingering in my mind. The rest of the night, I sat awake, listening to the house breathe. Every creak made me jump. Every shadow seemed to move. I never did find an explanation. Just the memory of the fogged mirror, and a warning I'll never forget. Sometimes it's better not to look too closely at the things we don't understand. And sometimes when the house tells you not to look, you listen. Moving into a new apartment often comes with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The promise of a fresh start, perhaps a better neighborhood, or simply a more affordable rent can feel like the beginning of a new chapter. For us, the place seemed perfect, almost too good to be true. The rent was cheap, the landlord easygoing, and nothing appeared out of the ordinary. No odd smells, no strange stains on the walls, and no unsettling neighbors. For a while, we settled into our routines, convinced we had found a hidden gem. But sometimes, the things you can't see are the ones you should worry about most. It was late one night when the first sign of trouble appeared. Our dog, usually calm and lazy, suddenly became restless. He started pacing around the living room, sniffing furiously at the corners, and then he began to bark, loud, sharp, insistent. The sound echoed through the apartment, jarring in the quiet. At first, we assumed it was a stray cat outside, or maybe a mouse, but his attention was fixed on the couch, his gaze never wavering. The barking grew more frantic, more desperate, curiosity mixed with fear as I approached the couch. I knelt down, lifted the edge of the fabric, and peered into the shadows beneath. At first, there was nothing, just darkness and dust. Then, two eyes stared back at me, fixed unblinking and entirely too human. The shock froze me in place for a heartbeat. My mind struggled to process what I was seeing. Someone was under our couch, not a child playing hide-and-seek, not a lost pet, but a man grown, silent, and watching. The next moments were a blur. We called the police, our voices shaking with adrenaline. The officers arrived quickly, their presence both reassuring and terrifying. They pulled the man out from his hiding place, disheveled and gaunt. He said nothing, just stared straight ahead, eyes empty of emotion. He had been living under our couch for 3 days. 3 days, in the heart of our home, while we moved about our lives, cooking, laughing, sleeping, unaware of the intruder just a few feet away. The man had entered through the fire escape, slipping quietly into our apartment when no one was watching. He brought almost nothing with him: a knife, a thin blanket, and a small notebook. It was the notebook that chilled us the most. Inside, every page was covered with our names, written over and over in shaky handwriting. Sometimes just the first names, sometimes our full names, sometimes with strange variations. It was as if he had been trying to memorize them, or perhaps turn them into something else, something meaningful only to him. The police took him away, asking questions we couldn't answer. Why had he chosen our apartment? Had he been watching us before he broke in? What was he planning to do with the knife, the blanket, the notebook filled with our names? The officers reassured us that we were safe now, that he would be taken care of. But reassurance felt thin. In the days that followed, we checked every lock and window, double and triple checking that nothing had been disturbed. We moved the couch, cleaned every inch of the living room, but the sense of violation lingered. Our home, once a sanctuary, now felt fragile, its walls thinner, its shadows deeper. Sometimes, late at night, I catch the dog staring at empty spaces, his ears perked, his gaze fixed. I wonder if he hears something I don't, if he smells a presence I can't detect. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers are not the ones we see coming, but the ones that wait quietly, just out of sight, beneath the surface of our ordinary lives. So, were these just break-ins, or something worse? The closet, the locked bathroom, a stranger under the couch. Was it real, or were they being watched for longer than they thought? What would you do if you knew someone had been living inside your home without you knowing? Let us know in the comments below.